You have the right to have an attorney represent you. We have Mr. Moxie here today. If this case went any further and you need court-appointed counsel, we would appoint counsel for you, and you could have that counsel through all critical phases of these proceedings, including any question you decide to submit to, but you don't have to answer anyone's questions except for mine. Do you understand those rights, sir?
Yes.
Do you understand what you're charged with?
Yes.
All right. It's my understanding, I'll enter a not guilty plea for you, but I understand that Mr. Moxie has met with the city attorney and negotiated a plea disposition. Mr. Moxie, would you tell us what you've negotiated?
Judge, we reviewed his driving record, and in spite of the lengthy record, the city is willing to drop 2 of the charges, the driving while license suspended and the traffic signal violation. That leaves us with a plea to the driving while unlicensed.
All right. Is that your understanding, Mr. Hatchett?
Yes.
All right. I can't see you, but I'm going to trust you to raise your hand and swear to tell the truth. Please raise your hand.
Okay.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
All right, Mr. Hatchett, how old are you?
38.
How old? I'm sorry, 38?
Yes.
Read, write, and understand the English language?
Yes.
Are you on probation or parole in any court?
No.
Are you a U.S. citizen?
Yes.
You understand that you're going to be giving up your right to fight this case at a trial because you're making a plea bargain. You understand that?
Okay.
Okay, so you do understand that?
Yes.
All right. Now, if you wanted to, you could fight the case with a judge or jury hearing the evidence and making a decision on your guilt or innocence, because you're presumed innocent unless the prosecution proves you're guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, and they do that at a trial. At a trial, a judge or jury would hear the evidence and make a decision as to whether or not the prosecution proved the elements of the crime beyond a reasonable doubt. They do that by calling witnesses, and Mr. Moxie would be available or another attorney to cross-examine them for you. If you wanted to testify, you could, but if you didn't want to testify, no one can use your silence against you. In addition, you could have me order witnesses to come to court if they wouldn't come on their own, but you thought you needed them. But when you make a plea deal like this, there's no reason to have a trial. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Has anybody made any threats or promises to get you to plead guilty besides this plea bargain?
No.
All right. Mr. Hatchett, how do you wish to plead to operating a motor vehicle in the city of Grosse Pointe on December 2nd, 2020 while you were unlicensed?
You said how do I want to plead?
How do you want to plead to driving while unlicensed in the city of Grosse Pointe? Guilty or not guilty?
I mean, I'm guilty. I was driving on there.
Okay, that's good. That's what we know. So you were driving on that day. You were pulled over apparently for running a light or something. And at that time, the officer asked for your license and you had no license. Is that true?
Yes.
All right. And that's because you are unlicensed currently in light of, I guess, a lot of suspensions or something. Did you ever have a driver's license?
Never.
Okay. So you actually are unlicensed.
Yes.
All right. Based on your plea of guilty to driving unlicensed, I'm satisfied there's a factual basis, and I'm satisfied it's freely and voluntarily tendered. Are you, Mr. Moxie?
Yes.
All right. I'll go ahead and accept your plea of guilty to driving while unlicensed. Based on the plea bargain, I'll dismiss the driving while license suspended as well as the traffic violation. Mr. Moxie, can you tell me about Mr. Hatchett?
Well, his driving record is atrocious, right? So I told Mr. Hatchett, that's going to draw your attention, and he wants to tell you, what steps he's going to take to try to rectify this situation and get this matter cleared up. So go ahead, sir. Tell the judge, what your plan is.
I mean, I don't know what it's doing. I was doing kind of big stuff, so I don't really know. Like, I'll be on the scene, trying to be 7 hours. So we just said, I'd rather get
Can you repeat that a little slower, please, Mr. Hatchett?
Dialysis 3 times a week.
Oh, you have dialysis 3 times a week. How do you get to dialysis? Well, you can't drive. I realize that it's essential for your life, but you can't drive. I'm looking at your record, and you've got suspensions. I mean, you've got driving offenses in Detroit that are just literally pages long all this year. I mean, this latest, just earlier this month. I'm looking at in Detroit, you were stopped on December 1st. You were stopped on October 12th. You've been stopped multiple times in March and in January. It's just, you're just continuing to drive and you're not allowed to. What am I supposed to do? Just say, have a nice day?
No, I mean, half of the times I don't even think it's me because I've been back and forth to the hospital. I've been in the hospital, all types of stuff going on with me. So I ain't really been driving. So if somebody uses my name, that's me.
Well, typically, do you have a state ID card?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you were pulled over, you'd show your state ID, and I would suggest that they're probably not somebody else who has your state ID. Is somebody there that could take your license or your state ID and looks like you?
I mean, I lost my ID a couple times. I just got it back with you.
All right, Mr. Hatchett, are you on disability or Social Security, or are you working, or what's going on? I know you have kidney problems.
I'm trying to get on you.
What do you do for income?
I don't be doing that no more. I do work with cars, but if something sticky, I stop.
How do you get income to pay rent and buy food and pay utilities?
Like, my big mom doing it.
So you have a woman you have children with, is that correct?
Yes, I got 5 kids.
You have 5 kids.
Yes.
Okay. Does she work outside the home?
She work at McDonald's.
Okay. And so you must be getting some assistance with the children from the state?
I think when you get to medical.
I'm sorry, I didn't get that.
Food stamps and medical.
Food stamps and medical. All right, thank you. Is there anything that you'd like to tell me before I impose a sentence, Mr. Hatchett?
No, we have to take no head.
Yeah, I know I have to do it. Have you ever gone to jail for any of this?
I mean, yeah, I've been to jail sometimes back then with this stuff, but they ain't pulling the drug.
I'm sorry, I didn't get the last part of that. Did you, Mr. Moxie? Can you repeat that, please, a little slower?
Yes, I went to jail back then for this stuff, you know what I'm saying, a couple years ago and stuff, but I thought they had cleared all that stuff up. Because I ain't really had no shit since I've been in jail, this time they cleared all that stuff up.
Well, my problem is this, is that you've got dialysis 3 times a week. Putting you in custody complicates that greatly, although the Michigan Department of Corrections has many prisoners with who get regular dialysis. So I know that they're equipped to do that. But at some point, Mr. Hatchett, you're going to have to go to jail for some period of time on this. I don't know how you're going to pay fines and costs. You're living on food stamps and government assistance. You've got dialysis. There are not many tools that I can impose here. So here's what I'm going to do. Mr. Hatchett, I'm going to put you on non-reporting probation for 12 months. Every 3 months, I'm going to direct my court to check your driving record. And if there are any driving related offenses, even if they're not driving without a license, but if there's something that shows that you were driving an automobile after today's date without a license, I'm going to put you in jail for 90 days. It's real simple. I'm going to give you 90 days jail suspended, 12 months of probation, and I'm going to assess fines and costs totaling $525. That's a $200 fine, $200 in costs, and $125 in crime victims' rights and justice system assessment fees. I realize that's a lot of money. Do you think you can pay about $100 a month to take care of this?
I tried.
Well, what do you think you can do? What can you confidently tell me you can pay per month?
I really got no income, so I had to try to, do some little good stuff like this, try to do break stuff or do little jobs and stuff, try to get money in.
Let's see if we can, why don't you go ahead and try paying $100 a month starting middle of January. We'll call it by the second Friday of every month. We'll look for $100. Now, if you can't make it, I'm not going to throw you in jail as long as you contact me and make some kind of payment, okay?
Okay.
But you can't just do this and then not have any consequences. You're violating the law. And right, but apparently you don't understand it because you've got repeated, I mean, just earlier this month, you got a ticket for this the day before you got this ticket. You can't continue to do this. This is not, a developing world country where licenses aren't required. You've got to have a license. And you can't just not ever get one and just continue to drive. What happened to your motor vehicle that you were operating?
When they ran,
You still have the car? Do you still have the car?
no, they told the car.
Okay, so you don't have the car.
No.
All
No,
right.
no car.
Are you still on Hickory?
Yes.
All right, listen, 12 months, non-report, only condition is no driving.
Okay.
We'll run your record if you're driving. I'm gonna put a warrant out. I'm gonna call you up and tell you to turn yourself in, and if you don't do that, I'll put a warrant out for your arrest, and when you're picked up, you'll go to jail for 90 days, okay?
Okay.
All right, you're all set, thank you.
All right.
Did Joshua Crafton happen to zoom in?
Yes.
Excellent.
Do you want to talk to him first?
No, I'll just deal with it real fast on the Zoom.
I mean, what do you do with a case like that?
I know.
What do you do? I mean, if the guy was an armed robbery, put him in the Department of Corrections. My buddy has the contract for dialysis for the Michigan Department of Corrections.
Really?
He's a nephrologist. And the stories he tells about going into the prison system and dialyzing these patients, it's just the stories that he hears from these guys is just hilarious.
Okay, sorry.
I mean, somebody's always dissing somebody else, and there's always some kind of fight, and there's a bunch of disrespect, and, everybody's baby mama is this and that. It's just crazy.
Yeah, we talked about this.
Right.
Yeah, yeah,
Restriction?
yeah, I'll just deal with them on the phone.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah, it won't be a problem. Unless you want to know, I got these earlier ones first. Adamson.
Oh, well, thank you. I keep seeing your buddy Herman
Oh, yeah?
all the time. I told you she asked about you.
Oh.
I said, yeah, I get her one day every couple of weeks. Otherwise, she's not. Troy, city of Tiburon today. Are we ready on this? On Lanier?
Yeah.
Oh, good. There's Mr. Lanier. All right, we're on the record in the matter of City of Grosse Pointe versus Lorenzo Denzel Lanier. This is 17 GR 00969 A and B. May I have your appearance, please?
Morning, Your Honor. Andrew Moxley, P number 69568 on behalf of the defendant.
All right, thank you. And are you Lorenzo Lanier?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Lanier. We're on Zoom today. If you can't see me, speak up. If you can't hear me, wave your arms or something. Otherwise, I'll assume that you and I are communicating.
Okay.
We're here today. I've got to ask you, Mr. Lanier, before we even get started, this ticket dates back to July 18, 2017. You were given a notice to appear here in court back on July 21st of 2017. We are now more than 3 years away. What happened? How come you didn't come to court?
At the time, I don't think that I was working a stable job then, and I just tried to take the easy way out. Really ended up hurting the program of appearing in court.
Well, even if you're not working, it's not like we throw you in jail because you can't pay the ticket unless it's willful. You need to come to court even if, you're not working a steady job to take care of these. What prompted you to come to court on this? Are you trying to get your license back? Because I noticed on the record you've got you're paying tickets all over town.
Yeah, I'm older now. I'm trying to get myself together as far as tickets and debts that I owe.
That's a good decision because you're too young a man to be having this behind, on your back all the time. All right, Mr. Lanier, you're here today because you were charged with driving on a suspended license and no proof of insurance Driving on a suspended license is a misdemeanor. It's punishable by up to 90 days in jail, fines up to $500, and costs in court's discretion. It carries driver's license points and an additional period of suspension. You're also charged with no proof of insurance. No proof of insurance is a civil infraction under our municipal ordinance, punishable by a fine of $150. There's no points or anything with it. Now, because you're charged with a criminal offense, you have the right to remain silent. Anything that you say can and will be used against you. You have the right to have a lawyer to represent you. We have Mr. Moxie here for you today. If for some reason the case went further and you needed appointed counsel, we would appoint one for you. You can have that lawyer through all critical phases of these proceedings, including any question you decide to submit to, but you're not under any requirement to answer anyone's questions except for mine. Do you understand those rights, sir?
Yes.
All right, it is alleged that you operated a motor vehicle while suspended back on July 18, 2017. It's my understanding, Mr. Moxie, that you reached a plea disposition. Is that correct?
We have, Your Honors, a reduced charge to no offense on person, and you would like to take it.
All right. Is that correct, Mr. Lorenzo?
Yes.
All right. Would you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. You can put your hand down. Mr. Lorenzo, how old are you? I'm sorry, Mr. Lanier. You're Lorenzo Lanier. I'm saying it backward, Mr. Lanier. My apologies. Mr. Lanier, how old are you?
28.
Read, write, and understand the English language?
Yes.
Are you on probation or parole in any court?
No.
Are you a U.S. citizen?
Yes.
Are you under the influence of anything that would affect your ability to know what we are doing today?
No.
Okay. You understand that you're going to be giving up your rights to fight this case. If you wanted to, you could fight this charge with a trial where a judge or a jury would hear the evidence and make a decision on your guilt or innocence. You're presumed innocent unless the prosecution proves you're guilty on a reasonable doubt. They do that by calling witnesses to the witness stand. You have a capable attorney here to cross-examine those witnesses. You could testify if you wanted to. If you didn't want to, nobody could say anything about your silence. You could have witnesses come to court for you, and if they wouldn't come voluntarily, I would order them to come. But when you make a plea deal like this, where the charges are dropped in exchange for acceptance of responsibility to another charge, you're giving up your right to fight the case. Do you understand that?
Yes.
All right. No operator's license on person is a misdemeanor, and it will result in an additional period of suspension on your license, so it might kick your ability to apply for a license down the road for another 30 days. It is punishable by up to 90 days in jail and fines up to $500. The advantage of it over driving while license suspended is that it doesn't carry the ability to be enhanced if this ever happens again. That's really the major advantage. Do you have any questions about what you're pleading guilty to?
No.
All right. With regard then to a charge of no operator's license on person on July 18, 2017, how do you wish to plead, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
Is it true that you were driving a motor vehicle in the city of Grosse Pointe on that date with no operator's license on your person?
Yes.
All right, based on, and it looks like you were probably pulled over for a bad license plate. They warned you about the plate. You didn't have insurance on you. Those charges will be dismissed, and no insurance, as will the driving while license suspended, but you are pleading guilty to no operator's license on person. You find the plea acceptable, Mr. Moxie?
Yes, sir.
So I think there's a factual basis, and I'm satisfied it's knowing and voluntary. Mr. Lanier, I'll accept your plea of guilty to no operator's license on person. What do you want to tell me about yourself? Looking at your record, you're going all over the place to clear up these tickets. I mean, you must be going through every bit of your paycheck to pay all these fines and costs on these old tickets.
Yes.
That's a good thing. What do you want to tell me about yourself? Sounds like you're working and trying to get your life back in order. That's a good thing. What's happening?
Yeah, right now I'm currently working at Amazon in Sterling Heights. I have 2 children right now. I have twins, a boy and a girl. They were 1.5. They just turned 1 June 25th of this year. Right now I'm just basically trying to get myself together because I just can't picture myself about to be in my early 30s still going through the same thing. Can't even, always gotta look in your rearview mirror while trying to drive, just to like drive them appointments and things like that of that nature.
What is going on with your Macomb County implied consent suspension? It looks like you're suspended for refusing the breathalyzer through July of next year. Is that right?
Yes.
What, do you have a current pending drunk driving case right now?
Yes.
Where is it?
It's in the city of Warren.
Has it been resolved yet?
No, not yet.
Okay. All right. But the bottom line is you're not going to have a license or the ability to even apply for a license until after July 24th of this summer, right?
Yes.
So how are you getting to work?
Right now, I'm having either my baby mama or my sister. Me and my baby mother actually work at the same job.
All right. Well, that'd be the mother of your children. That's kind of the term that we would use in court. Are you still on Barlow?
Yes.
All right, Mr. Lanier, is there anything else you want to tell me?
That's basically it for myself. What was going on with me in my life right now.
Mr. Moxie, is there anything that you'd like to add? What would you like to tell me about this defendant?
I really don't have anything additional to add, Judge, other than we were impressed by his efforts to clear a deal.
I'm a little concerned with the drug driving, but that will be dealt with by Warren. Mr. Lanier, you're taking the right steps, obviously picking up a drug driving, and that, again, I'm not looking at that against you. You haven't been convicted of it, but it's pending out there. That'll add some additional complications, but frankly, you're smart to get that resolved now. The refusal to take the breathalyzer is a complicating situation for you because it automatically results, even if you were innocent, in a loss of your driving privileges. Because when you get a driver's license, you agree to a breathalyzer on the reasonable request of a police officer. And when you refuse, the state says, sorry, then you lost your privilege to drive for a year. So that complicates your life. You cannot drive or it will really be a mess and you'll go to jail for that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to assess a fine in the amount of $200, cost in the amount of $200, crime victims' rights and justice system assessment fees of $125 for a total of $525. I'll give you time to pay. How much time do you think you need to pay this?
$525. I can pay about I want to say by February to be paid.
Okay, so if I give you to by February or by the end of February, or what do you need?
The end of February be paid for sure.
Right. All right, by March 1. Okay, now listen, don't wait to just February 28th and say, oh, I got to get 525 together. Start chipping away at it right now. I would typically put you on a no driving probation, but I can tell you right now that you're going to have to deal with the Warren case, and the Warren judge there will put you on some kind of probation that will indicate that you shouldn't violate any law of the state of Michigan. So if you're caught driving between now and the time that you get your driver's license back in July, you're going to end up going to jail. You'll lose the Amazon job. The mother of your children will not be very happy. Your children will not be very happy. Nobody will be happy. It's not a good thing. So you're doing all the right things. You got kids that are going to need to be chauffeured around as they get into activities, as they get older. You're going to want to be a good role model for those kids so they grow up to be good, solid citizens like it looks like you are becoming. So you're on the right path. I'm encouraged by what I see. Just take care of this by the end of March. Take care of this Warren case. Put this stuff behind you and look forward to next summer when we're all out from under this pandemic and you can probably go back in and apply for a license. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
All right, good luck. Thank you, Mr. Lanier.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yes.
All right, we're here on the record in the matter of People versus Jessica Marie Gadowski. This is case number 20 GR00386 A, B, and C. May I have your appearance, please?
Morning, Your Honor. Andrew Mock, CP number 69568.
All right, and good morning. You're Jessica Gadowski?
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Gadowski. You're here today by Zoom. If you can't see me, speak up. If you can't hear me, wave your arms or something else. Otherwise, I'll assume that you and I are communicating okay this morning. Is that all right with you?
Yes.
All right, may I have the appearance of the probation department, please?
Stephen Johnson.
All right, this is the date and time set for sentencing in connection with Ms. Gadowski's plea to operating while intoxicated. I've had an opportunity to review the summary of substance abuse screening report and discuss it with the probation department. Mr. Moxie, have you and your client had the opportunity to review it?
Yes, we reviewed it, Judge. It was factually accurate. There's no additions, deletions, or corrections. Ask you to adopt the recommendation.
All right, thank you very much. Ms. Gadowski, have you had an opportunity to review this report with Mr. Moxie this morning?
Yes.
Do you have any additions, corrections, or deletions?
No.
Anything that's different about it?
I'm sorry.
What do you want to tell me about your situation? What do you think I ought to do?
I realized that I messed up, and this is my second time doing this. I know now that I have to change my life and turn my life around. And I would like one more chance, please, if possible.
Well, okay. Ms. Gadowski, I mean, here's the concern that I have. How old are you?
I just turned 25.
Right. So in 5 years ago, when you were 20, you had a minor in possession. Then 3 years later, you had an operating while intoxicated. And then you had this, you had an open intoxicants ticket. It looks like maybe that was out of the same event. And then you had this ticket of operating while intoxicated. I would suggest, and you have a history of a father who was an alcoholic. You were told us that, you know, every other night you might pound 4 or 5 vodkas. I'd suggest that you might have a problem with drinking. You wouldn't be the only person, believe me, in the world with it, but it looks like it's something that you're going to have to address. And my concern is that as long as you're drinking heavy like that and you're driving, you're putting everybody here at risk. My feeling is this recommendation is a good one. It calls for 12 months of probation. It calls for no operating a motor vehicle in violation of Michigan statutes, no use of alcohol. With random testing, I'm not going to have you, because you're working, are you still working at Cattleman's? Did you get that job and it's working out for you?
Yes.
Okay. It's important that you have good, stable, safe employment, because I really think that gives people a purpose. In addition to just giving them income, it gives them a structure. You know, when you're just sitting around and they're not doing anything at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, it might be a good thing to have a cocktail, right? But if you're going to work every day, that's what your job is, and so that kind of keeps you on the straight and narrow. So keep that employment, very important. Do you have any children?
I'm sorry.
Do you have any children?
No,
you have children?
No.
Who do you live with on Packard?
I live with my brother and my mother.
Okay. All right, Ms. Gadowski, I'm going to adopt this recommendation. I am, however, going to assess fines and costs. I'm going to assess a fine in the amount of $400, cost the amount of $200, crime victims' rights and justice system assessment fees of $125, for a total of $725. Plus, you're going to be paying reporting probation oversight fees of how much a month?
$40.
Oversight, 12 months of probation.
Is she posted a bond, Judge?
Yeah, the $500 bond. Ms. Gadowski, did you post that in your name, that bond?
My mother came and bonded me out.
All right. I don't know if we have the bond. It looks like we have the bond in your name. Can we apply that bond to your fines and costs?
Yes.
All right. We'll apply the bond to your fines and costs. That leaves a more modest balance. But I'm going to put you on 12 months reporting probation. You're going to be tested on a random basis, but you will be tested. Mr. Johnson will make a decision, and he'll call you up and say, look, I'm going to order you to take an EGT test. And that's a test that looks back, roughly 3 days to see if you've used any alcohol in that time period. I do not want any use of alcohol or controlled substances unless prescribed by a physician. No operating a motor vehicle without a valid license. I want you to attend a session of the MAD Victim Impact Panel. You can do that online. And I want you to, well, the 48 hours of community service I'm a little concerned about because of the pandemic. Mr. Johnson, you have a suggestion in that regard?
Well, hopefully before the year is out, things will open up a little bit, and there are some options out in her area that I can advise her on and take in. But for the next few months, that will not be.
Right, we're not going to enforce that right away. We're going to see how the pandemic goes, but I am going to impose 48 hours of community service. I suspect we're going to be out from under this thing. I'm hoping by June, July. This summer, maybe you can do some community service, work with some kind of organization, because I think that you need to make a payment back to society. It's not just about the money. It's not just about driving. It's about the risk that you put us all at. You were really hammered. I mean, your blood alcohol level was 18, and you're not a big woman. I mean, you were pretty slaughtered. That's not a good thing. You could have killed somebody, and if that was the case, you'd be sitting in the box and waiting to go to prison. You don't need that trouble. You got a job now. You're 25. It's time to get focused on improving your life and moving on. Okay?
Okay. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. As far as the balance of your fines and costs, like I say, we can apply $450 of your bond to this. That leaves a balance with regard to the fines and costs of what would be, I guess, would be $250. When can you pay that balance?
Can I have like 30 days?
Absolutely. No problem.
Thank you so much.
I'll apply bond and get the payment by the end of January, okay?
Okay.
Pay by February 1st, 2021. And then, listen, don't blow this, because if you blow this, I'm going to put you in jail, okay? You know that.
Yes.
I mean, I don't have many choices to that. So just please be smart about this. You're going to have a hard time getting a license back because you've had 2 alcohol-related convictions within a 7-year period. So you're going to be suspended for a minimum of a year before you can even reapply. So, you're going to have to figure out how to get to work. How do you get into Cattleman's every day?
My brother takes me sometimes, and if not, there's a Van Dyke bus. I live on 9 in Van Dyke, and it's right there on 10 Mile in Van Dyke.
Right. Yeah. So you can there's pretty decent bus service where you are, from where you are. All right, Ms. Gudowski, take this as a learning lesson. You're too young to let this define you. So let's be smart and move on, okay?
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I just got to talk to Crafton, but I don't think it's confidential. We can just deal with
Have
this.
you talked to Crafton?
Wasn't able to reach him this morning.
Who's this?
That's Crafton.
Mr. Crafton is going to need to turn on his audio.
Mr. Crafton? You with us? Mr. Crafton? Your audio, please.
Hi, Joshua, Attorney Moxie here. So I tried to call you, but we couldn't reach you. The city attorney is willing to drop the driving while unlicensed, and you would plead to the violating the restricted license that you have. You want to proceed in that manner?
Yes, sir. So the only charge would be driving on the restricted. Is that correct?
Yeah, you violated your restricted license. Correct. They'll drop the other charge. Actually, there are 2 other charges. One-way street. They'll drop that too. All right.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
All right. We're on the record in the matter of People versus Joshua Wayne Crafton, case number 20-GR0043A, 38A, B, and C. Are you Joshua Wayne Crafton?
Yes, sir, I am.
All right, Mr. Crafton, we're here today by Zoom. If you can't see me, speak up if you can't hear me, wave your arms or something. Otherwise, I'll assume we're communicating okay. All right?
I can hear you. Yes, sir. Yes, Your Honor.
And I saw you wave your arms, but you can hear me. Just let me know if you can.
Yes, sir. I can hear
We're
you.
here today. You've been charged. There are a couple of things we have to do today. I have to formally tell you what you're charged with, and then we'll work on the plea bargain. Before I tell you what you're charged with, you should know, because you're charged with a criminal offense, that you have the right to remain silent. Anything that you say can and will be used against you. You have the right to have a lawyer represent you. You have Mr. Moxie here today for purposes of today's proceedings. If for some reason you needed an attorney because the case went forward, we can appoint one for you. You can have that attorney through all critical phases of these proceedings, including any question you decide to submit to, but you're not required to submit to anyone's questions except for mine. Do you understand those rights?
Yes, sir, I do.
All right, you're charged with operating a motor vehicle in violation of a restricted license and also driving while you're unlicensed or without a cycle endorsement, apparently, or a license never acquired. You're also alleged to have violated a civil infraction, a traffic 2-point violation of driving the wrong way on a one-way street. It's alleged this took place in the city of Grosse Pointe on December 3rd, 2020. It's my understanding, sir, that you are willing to accept a plea of guilty to violating your restricted license privilege, and in exchange, the people would dismiss the other charges. Is that your understanding?
Yes, sir. So I would be just getting charged with driving on the restricted. And I know, sir, it was negligent, even though I live right down the street. I went to
Now it's not the time. I'll ask Mr. Crafton, I'll ask you for the facts here in a minute. I have a few other questions that I need to ask you. Before we go forward, would you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Mr. Crafton, how old are you?
I'm 37 years old, Your Honor.
Do you read, write, and understand the English language?
Yes, sir.
Are you under the influence of anything today that would affect your ability to know what we are doing?
No, sir.
Are you on probation or parole in any court?
Yes, I am on non-reporting probation through Grosse Pointe Farms.
Do you understand that your plea in this case may violate the terms of your probation in Grosse Pointe Farms?
Yes, sir.
I don't know that it will, but it may. Are you a U.S. citizen?
Yes, I am.
All right. You understand that when you're making a plea bargain like this, you're giving up your right to fight the case. That means you're giving up your right to have a judge or jury hear the evidence and make a decision on your guilt or innocence. You're presumed innocent unless the people, that's the prosecution, prove your guilt beyond reasonable doubt. They do that by holding a trial where witnesses are called. You have a capable attorney to cross-examine those witnesses. If you wanted to testify, you could. But if you didn't want to, your silence couldn't be used against you. You could also have witnesses come to court for you, and I would order them to come if they wouldn't come on their own. When you make a plea deal like this, you're giving up your right to fight the case, and there is no trial. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
Other than this plea bargain, has anybody made any threats or promises to get you to plead guilty to violating your restricted driving license?
No, sir.
All right, Mr. Crafton, with regard to a charge of operating a motor vehicle in violation of your restricted driver's license on or about, looking at the ticket here, December 3rd, 2020 in the city of Grosse Pointe, how do you wish to plead?
Driving with no license, sir. I mean, I'm as guilty as charged. You know, I went and stopped by the market to get my girlfriend something as a surprise, some shrimp cocktail, and the officer could tell me when you got pulled over, all I had was flowers and shrimp cocktail on my person.
I'm sorry, all you had was what?
When I got pulled over by Officer
Almirante. Doesn't matter.
Yes,
You were
sir.
pulled over what? So wait a minute, let me get this.
What he said, Your Honor, was all he had was shrimp cocktail and flowers on his person. He was
Right.
getting some presents for his girlfriend.
I thought I heard the cocktail, but I didn't hear the shrimp.
No, the
So I'm kinda
shrimp
wondering
cocktail.
what
I
this
paid.
cocktail I was driving. Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. You
Hold
with
on one
us,
second.
Mr. Kraft?
A friend of the family has been helping me out is Mr. Jack Ransdell, that used to be the attorney for the city of Detroit, and I know he was trying to help me with some stuff going forward with this, but sorry, he was just trying to video call in, and I don't think that would really help me at all.
All right, well, at this point, it's water over the dam. But the point is, you had a restricted license from your case in Grosse Pointe Farms that only permitted you to drive to, from, and in the course of employment to court and to medical things. Is that correct?
Yes.
And when you were operating the motor vehicle, you were coming from a store, maybe Village Market or someplace, I don't know, with flowers and and some shrimp cocktail to take to your girlfriends. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
So that would not have been in the course of employment or in connection with a court function or a medical need or educational need.
No, sir, it would not.
All right. So I'm satisfied that the pleas were freely and voluntarily tendered. I'm satisfied that there's a sufficient factual basis. Based on the plea, I'll dismiss the one-way driving and the driving while licensed, while unlicensed. Mr. Moxie, is there anything you'd like to tell me before I impose a sentence?
No, Judge.
Mr. Crafton, what do you want to tell me? You don't have to say anything, but I'm going to sentence you. Today is the time to be sentenced.
You know, there's nothing that I really can say to defend myself. You know, I shouldn't have been driving, case in point. Whether or not that it was only a mile from my residence is irrelevant. I broke the law by not abiding to the guidelines, and I mean, I am guilty of that. So there's nothing to defend or rebuke. So,
do you work?
Yes, sir. I am currently a manager in training at Chipotle off of Gratiot, and as of January 20th, I'm supposed to be transferring to the Chipotle that they're building right down the street from.
That's nice.
Yes, so I will be able to walk to work, literally.
Right. Well, you can drive to work under the terms of your restricted license, although this may trigger an additional period of suspension or a hard suspension when the state sees that you were driving in violation of your restriction. So I should advise you of that. Does that change how you want to proceed on this?
No, sir. I don't think really at the end of the day it's going to make a hill of beans. I mean, I was in the wrong, and I'm man enough to say that I shouldn't have been driving, and you know, I'm guilty of that. So,
well, all right. It's always refreshing when somebody owns up to their conduct. What I'm going to do is that I'm just going to impose fines and costs in connection with this. You're already on non-reporting probation to the farms. There wasn't any alcohol involved in this matter. The farms probation officer may bring you into court to explain yourself because you had a restricted license, and obviously you probably weren't allowed to violate any Michigan law in your farm's probation, and that may create a problem, but that's for them to deal with and you to deal with, not for me. So I will assess a fine in the amount of $200, cost the amount of $200, crime victims' rights and justice system assessment fees of $125. For total fines and costs of $525, there won't be any probationary period. When can you pay those? I see that Ms. Ramsdale posted a bond of $200, $180 of which can be applied to your fines and costs if she allows that.
okay, yes, and that would be fine to do so in that.
Well, have her call us and let us know that it's okay to apply the bond, but that obviously leaves a balance of $345. When can you pay that?
So the total amount I need to pay would be what exactly?
Total fines and costs are $525. If Ms. Ramsdale gives us,
it would be $345, correct?
Right. If Ms. Ramsdale gives us the green light to apply the bond, that's going to be, we can apply 180 of it because $20 goes to an administrative fee. So that would leave us at $345 balance. How long do you need to take care of that?
Okay, where I just started this job bi-weekly, I think my next paycheck is coming up on December 24th or the 23rd. It's supposed to be the 25th. And obviously, with the bills, I had to contribute towards my girlfriend's rent, but I know towards this balance of the 345, I could at least go ahead and pay half of that in one payment because I am paid bi-weekly.
Do you think you could pay the balance of this by the end of January?
Yes, sir.
All right. Pay it by February 1st, the balance by February 1st, 2021. Now, I have your address on Clairwood Street, but are you living with your girlfriend on Lakeland?
Yes.
Who lives, do you still have a property on Clairwood?
Okay, where I've lived there for the past 2 years with my roommate, I've had I haven't changed permanent residence just due to my tax stuff coming there and in that sense.
If I was to send you a letter, let's say I had to send you a notice for court or something, where would I mail it to?
Go ahead and send it to this address, the 17540 Mack Avenue, Apartment 3, Grosse Pointe.
Mack Avenue, Apartment 3?
Yes, 17540 Mack Avenue, Apartment 3.
All right, great. 48230. All right, good luck to you, Mr. Crafton. Use this as a learning lesson.
And that total cost was $345, correct?
Well, but get Ms. Ramsdale to call us up and give us the green light on applying for a bond, okay?
I'll talk to Betsy and Mr. Jack today.
All right, very well, thank you. You're all set.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
I just have to talk to Kristen real fast. It's not confidential. We weren't able to reach her. Kristen, Attorney Moxie here. So the city attorney looked at your case. He's willing to do a $250 fine and a 6 months deferred sentence. You stay out of trouble 6 months from now, this comes off your record. You want to proceed in that fashion?
She's not connected to audio. I'm not sure.
It looks like she's pushing the audio.
Hello?
Can you turn on your audio, please? Can you turn on your audio, ma'am? Call here.
Yeah, let's see if she'll pick up this time.
Oh, here it is. She looks like she's going to a better place, maybe for a better signal or something.
Hello. Hi.
Now we got you. Hi, Ms. Adamson. Good morning. Mr. Moxie had some questions for you before we go on the record in this case.
Hi, Kristen. So I had a chance to speak with the city attorney. He's willing to resolve this with a $250 fine. All right. Put you on a 6 months deferred sentence. You stay out of trouble. You pay the fine. This comes off your record.
Okay, that sounds great. Yeah, I want to apologize. I've cleaned my life up since. The reason I did what I did is I had a drug problem, but I can honestly tell I've cleaned my life up. I've totally changed.
All right, well, that's why they're giving you a chance. All right, let's take care of this.
All right, we're on the record in the matter of People versus Kristen Renee Adamson, case number 1919-ON. Your appearance, please.
Morning, Your Honor. Andrew Moxie, P number 69568.
All right, and you're Kristen Adamson, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, Ms. Adamson, you're here today because you've been charged with a criminal offense of removal of property, commonly known as shoplifting. It's alleged to remove property from the Kroger store here in the city of Grosse Pointe on or about November 24, 2019, so literally more than a year ago. Because you're charged with a criminal offense, and it's punishable by up to 90 days in jail, fines up to $500, costs and court discretion. Because you're charged with a criminal offense, you have the right to remain silent. Anything that you say can and will be used against you. You have the right to have a lawyer represent you. If you can't afford a lawyer, we'll appoint one for you. You have Mr. Moxie here today to represent you. If you need court-appointed counsel and the case goes forward, we would appoint counsel for you. You can have that attorney through all critical phases of these proceedings, including any question you decide to submit to. You are not under any requirement to answer anyone's questions except for mine as we're speaking here. You understand those rights, ma'am?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. First question, Ms. Adamson, what happened? This case is a year old. I gave you a bond, I cut you loose, and you violated my trust by not coming back to court. What happened?
I was using drugs it's just pretty bad. I went through a traumatic event in 2012. They caught the guy 5 years later. I've since testified and he got put away and I got closure on that, and I've since been able to clean up my life and stop using drugs to deal, just to numb the pain and numb everything. But I'm in a good place now. And
the bottom line is that you had a drug problem and the drugs were more important than coming to court, right?
yeah, oh yeah. I mean, yeah.
What was your drug of choice?
It was heroin.
Well, I sure hope that that's behind you now.
Oh yes.
Ms. Adamson, the plea offer is that you'll plead guilty to removal of property, the principal offense that you're charged with. But because of your situation, the court would put you on a non-reporting probation. The only conditions that I would have is that you not pick up any new criminal charges and that you stay out of the Kroger in the village here in Grosse Pointe until the case is concluded. And I would probably impose some fines and costs in connection with this. At the end, if you successfully completed all this after 6 months, this would come off your record. Is that the plea bargain that you want to take?
Yes, Your Honor.
Would you raise your right hand, please? You swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, you put your hand down. Ms. Adamson, how old are you?
36.
Read, write, and understand the English language?
Yes.
Under the influence of anything today that would affect your ability to know what we are doing?
No, Your Honor.
Are you on probation or parole in any court?
No, Your Honor.
Are you a U.S. citizen?
Yes.
You understand that by pleading guilty to this charge under this plea bargain that Mr. Moxie has negotiated with the prosecutor, that you're giving up your right to fight this case. That means you're giving up the right to have a judge or a jury hear the evidence and make a decision on your guilt or innocence. You're presumed innocent unless the people prove you're guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, and they do that by holding a trial where they call witnesses. Mr. Moxie is a competent attorney who would cross-examine those witnesses. If you wanted to testify, you could. If you didn't want to testify, no one could use your silence against you. You could have witnesses come to court for you, and if they wouldn't come voluntarily, I would order them to come. When you plead guilty, you're giving up your right to fight the case. You understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Other than this plea bargain, have there been any threats or promises to get you to plead guilty today?
No, sir.
All right. With regard then to the unauthorized removal of property from the Kroger store, I guess they were Monster Energy drinks, on or about November 24, 2019, here in the city of Grosse Pointe. How do you wish to plead, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
All right, and is it true back at that time, I think when you were probably using drugs and addicted, you stole some Monster Energy drinks, is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
What was the purpose? Was it for resale to get drugs, or was it just for personal consumption?
For resale of drugs, for drugs.
All right, thank you, Ms. Adamson. You obviously didn't have the permission of anyone in the store to take that stuff without paying, I would suggest. Is that true?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, I'm satisfied that the plea has been freely and voluntarily tendered. I'm satisfied there's a sufficient factual basis. I'll accept this plea Let's proceed to sentencing, and it will be taken under 771.1.
Thank you.
Mr. Moxie, what can you tell me about Ms. Adamson? She tells us that she has turned her life around.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious. I mean, if she was still using heroin, I think we would be able to tell just with the communications we had with her today. Are you back to work, ma'am?
I'm actually in GED classes online, and my son has since moved back in with me. My whole family sees that I've actually turned my life around, and they couldn't be happier. But I have my son here living with me. We're both in online GED classes together. I plan on getting my GED and being a drug counselor or a counselor for children, something that I can do with having felonies on my record, because I do have a lengthy record, which I'm not proud of. But yeah, I just want to help. I just want to help people, and I've lived it. I've been through every possible thing you could go through being on drugs, and I just feel like I could do a lot of good taking that career path.
Okay, Judge, nothing further.
Ms. Adamson, what is it that you wanted to tell the court? You don't have to say anything, but if you'd like to, I'd like to hear from you.
I just want to apologize for what I did. It's embarrassing. I'm ashamed of it. I wasn't brought up to be a thief. The drugs, they just had a hand. They just had their claw in me so deep that I just did things that I never would have done in a million years.
You said you had a lengthy criminal record. What's on your criminal record?
Well, it's not too lengthy, but to me it sounds bad. I have a receiving and concealing, and then I have I wrote a check and cashed it in my bank account. I'm not sure. I think it was the charge was called a no account check, something. I
Right.
cashed a check in my own bank
But
account
these
with
are,
knowing. I'm
these
sorry.
are almost all financial type crimes to support your drug habit. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
So what did you do to get clean?
Well, I went to QBH. It's in Detroit. It was the worst rehab I've ever seen. And I stayed there and dealt with it. I didn't want to. I wanted to leave, but I just knew, this was my time. I had a change within myself, my heart, my soul, everything. I've dealt with all the traumatic things, the traumatic thing that has happened. I've dealt with it, and it's just I was able to get closure, and I was just scared to get clean because I didn't know how I was going to deal with all the emotional issues that come along with it, with not being there for my family, not being there for my kids. But I've dealt with it. There was a lot of tears, a lot of tears. I just I'm actually starting counseling next week because I know I still need counseling for that issue. It's pretty fresh. I just testified the end of 2017. But yeah, I have a good support system, very good support system. My son's 20. He's a really good kid. He's going to the Air Force. So I'm just, it's helping me to be there for him and spend time with him before he goes. And I'm just glad that I have this opportunity to spend the time with him before he does go. And that we got to talk about why I wasn't there. And I'm just very honest these days. You have to be if you want to get clean and succeed at it. I have no thoughts of going backwards. I came way too far. I put a lot of legwork into this, and there's no relapses in my future. They say relapse is part of recovery, but I've already had all my relapses, and I knew before that I wasn't ready to stop. I would just do it to make a family member happy or just to shut someone up. But this time it was all me, my decision. I don't, that life, I'm not cut out for that life. I'm just not. It's a horrible life to live.
When did you last use?
My last date I used was October 13th at 7 a.m. in the morning.
So just last October?
Yeah.
Well, it's a journey that's just beginning, but it sounds like you actually have figured it out, that you just can't, I mean, you're saving your life before you're, dead. You know that the path that you were going down was going to end up with you dead somewhere in a motel or in a dumpster or overdosed someplace. It was just going to not end well. And it sounds like you've put together all the reasons why your sobriety and drug-free lifestyle would be important. Your kid and wanting to enjoy your child before, they don't want to be around you anymore. This is all good stuff that you're saying. I hope that you can continue with that. It's a sentence of this court that you be placed on a period of 6 months non-reporting probation. The only condition is that you not violate any laws in the state of Michigan, and that the only conditions, and that you not go into the Kroger store here in the city of Grosse Pointe. The fine is $100, costs are $150. I'm obligated to apply crime victims' rights and justice system assessment fees of $125 for a total of $375. Do you need time to pay that fine, ma'am?
No, I can pay it today.
All right. Pay the $375. I'll take this under 771.1. What that means, it'll go on your record, but if you successfully complete probation at the end of the 6 months, it'll come off your record. All right, so this was a really, particularly with somebody with a track record of some financial type fraud crimes, this is a very, very favorable disposition. 6 months from now, you won't have any record unless you start using and things fall apart again. So
Yeah,
I'm
no.
glad you're on the path to save.
Thank you.
Are you still on East 12 Mile?
No, I have a new address. I moved.
What's your new address?
Okay, 35406 Collingwood Drive. That's COLLINGWOOD Drive, Sterling Heights, Michigan 48312.
All right. Well, I like what I'm hearing. Keep up the good work. Use this as a learning lesson and move on. Congratulations.
How do I pay the fine today? Do I just call over the phone?
We'll give you a call. We've got your number. We can give you a call and go from there. Okay? We'll let you.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right. Are we ready on People versus Andrew J. Koss?
That's me. That's me.
Hello, Mr. Koss. Thank you for joining in. This is our case number 110670. Who appears on behalf of the city of Grosse Pointe?
I do. Brian Kress, I'm the city code enforcement officer.
All right, very well. Mr. Koss, you're here today because they've cited you for some housing-related issues at 696 Neff, apparently road harborage and sanitation issues. We have Mr. Kress, our city code enforcement person. What is your title now? Didn't you get promoted recently, Mr. Kress?
Yes, I'm now also the public service supervisor.
All right. What's the nature of the allegations against Mr. Koss in detail?
This case has been going on for quite a while now. It started almost last year due to rodents being seen in the area. The backyard is, I would say, severely overgrown with vegetation, and they got a canine exterminator, so they put bait boxes all around. They cleaned up slightly. I said, okay, well, you're going in the right direction, so I closed the case. A few months later, the neighbor called saying that there's rats again, as bad as they were before, so I opened it back up. The yard, that was in early spring. By that time, it was late. It was early October, so everything had taken full growth again. And the exterminator also said that the garage is full of. It's full, and there are rats that have taken harborage inside the garage, and I have not been able to see if the garage has been cleaned out. But the last time I spoke to the exterminator, he said that it has not been, and there is prevalent droppings in the garage, so they are still living in the garage.
Mr. Koss, we are here today for an informal hearing in connection with this matter, and Mr. Kress has told me what he wants to. Do you have any questions for Mr. Kress?
No, what we've done so far, and it's indeed, we're elderly. I'm 85 years old. It's taking me some time to respond, but we've done a number of things. We've engaged Terminex and pest control at the cost of $600 and running. We've made our own personal efforts to rodent control products and so on. We've in the meantime, but they only appear once a month, and we've tied up.
Do you live at this property?
We do indeed. We don't rent the top, but we like both units, so we just stay in the bottom unit. And we've got a large yard, and it's mainly garden, and it's taken some time for us to do that cleaning. We've also installed along the bottom of our fence, all the way around the yard, a screen, a protective screen, so that any rodents or anything cannot communicate between our neighbors and ours. We've had several trees trimmed because there was a leaf problem. We've disinfected the garage a number of times continually over every week. My wife goes in there to make sure. We've also cemented the bottom part to be garage cement garage door there, so that there's good closure. There's no way for rats to enter in, and we've organized the contents of our garage and plan to have a big garage sale in the springtime when it becomes capable for us to do that. We've also apologized.
Let me stop you right here, Mr. Cost. Mr. Kress, do you have any photographs that might illustrate what we're looking at?
I have a photo of the backyard. I haven't been able to get inside the garage, so I can't show you a photo of that.
Holy moly. Whoa. Have you seen these photographs, Mr. Cost, that Mr. Kress took?
No,
This is obviously a month or so ago, right?
I believe those were taken at the end of October.
The end of October. I mean, frankly, the backyard looks terribly overgrown.
Well, Your Honor, we've taken measures to that. Just I indicated to you that we've cleaned up the yard. He hasn't been back here since, and so he needs to change those pictures. The pictures I understand, don't represent the conditions that they are now.
Mr. Kress?
One of the last times I was there, Mr. Cause's wife said that I was not allowed back in her yard. So that's
a long time ago. That's a long time ago. You haven't been back
this year.
When was that?
That was in the summertime, before I had started up this new case, and I had sent three letters. The causes have not reached out to me at all to invite me back into the yard or so that I can check out the garage. But I'm just going off of word from their exterminator.
Well, I'm sorry that he didn't.
And the garage.
Hold on, Mr. Koch, you'll have a minute. Mr. Kress, who is their exterminator and what has he told you is the source of the
they use Peace Consultants. They're out of Grosse Pointe Park.
I'm sorry, what is it?
Peace Consultants, and they're out of Grosse Pointe Park.
And what has he or she told you?
He said that the garage is still full of whatever they have in the garage. They pulled it away from the wall, but he said that there's still plenty of rat droppings in the garage. So,
well, but I mean, is it the acute? I mean, garages, you put up whatever you want, I guess, in your garage. What is it about the material that they have stored in there that would help?
Well, if there's still prevalent rat droppings, they're living in that garage.
Right. No, so how come if we can't have an exterminator?
Well, this has been going on he's recommending that the garage needs to be cleaned out. So
that's what the exterminator, this is their exterminator?
Yeah.
Mr. Koss, have you had any conversation with regard to cleaning up your garage based on the exterminator's remarks, as Mr. Kress has told me, that the exterminator just says there's too much stuff in that garage?
We do have a lot of things in the garage. We've organized it. We want to sell it at a garage sale. He's wrong about droppings. He hasn't been around for a while. We've closed out the garage so that no rats can get in or out, and we've disinfected it. The exterminator, he comes and goes like a bird. He doesn't spend a lot of time, and so we've cleaned out. We've done what we can, and I can't see anything else as a private citizen can do. We've hired these guys to do the work, and we've cleaned up the yard. Mr. Crest should come back again and see the yard how it is now and take some more pictures. and see the garage, because those are the things we've done.
Here's the problem, Mr. Cost, is that your own exterminator says there's too much stuff in the garage. And I can tell you, you can seal off a garage, but if you've ever seen a rat shimmy literally under a 1/4 inch or a 1/2 inch crack in a building, or they can get into anything. They are simply, there is no way, unless you had a cement sealed building, floor to ceiling, that if there's any kind of joinery, where a surface meets another surface, a rat can get in. That's just the nature of the situation. So my concern is that your own exterminator has just said that there's too much stuff here. This was a problem that arose last spring, and the city brought a case. They thought it was resolved, and that would certainly have been a good time to get rid of all the stuff in the garage and clear it out and hold a garage sale. I appreciate the fact that you're elderly and it's difficult for you to do this yourself. But obviously, your neighbors in the community can't have a situation where it's unsanitary and the property is harboring rats because there's just too much garbage in it, too much stuff in it. And so my concern is too, that if you aren't allowing the city to come in and get an update on this and to get onto your property and look at it, how would we know that anything's been done?
Well,
so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to require you to permit Mr. Kress and the exterminator to have access to the property together within the next 10 days. And I'm going to adjourn this hearing to January 7th to see what recommendations are being made by the exterminator to Mr. Kress and to you to resolve this issue, because we just can't have rats in the community. Nobody wants that. It's a public health and safety issue. And part of my job is to make sure that the laws regarding public health and safety are enforced. So I don't know right now what the extent of the problem is. I've heard what you've told me, that you've got everything squared away and organized in the garage. That simply may not be efficient. There may be other ways that we have to handle this. But I want to hear from the exterminator and Mr. Kress, and I want the two of them to be able to inspect the property together and have the exterminator make some specific recommendations with regard to alleviating the rat problem. I don't really care what you store in your garage if it's lawful, but if the amount of storage or the nature of the material that is stored is assisting rats in finding a place to exist, then we're going to have to come up with a remedy. And that's why I'm going to ask the professionals to come in and give the court some advice. So with that, I will order that you allow Mr. Kress and the exterminator at a time convenient for all of you sometime in the next 10 days to inspect that property. That really is going to take us to, I'll tell you what, I'll say in the next, let's say by the end of the year. That's 2 weeks from today, because we got Christmas coming up. Nobody's probably working the 24th, or certainly not the 25th. So that'll leave us next week, 3 days, plus the 4 days of the week after Christmas. Then we'll have a report, and we'll come back here, zoom back in here on the 7th with an update, and we'll make a decision about what to do. Mr. Koss, I can tell you that I can order the city to take action and put it on your tax bill. So we all need to be cooperative in trying to figure out a solution to this problem. It does not sound like the solutions that you've implemented have been effective, because we're getting neighbor complaints, and the city had to reopen a file. So let's get the update from the experts. Allow Mr. Kress and the experts to get to your property sometime in the next 2 weeks, and then we'll zoom back here on the 7th and decide on a firm course of action. So this hearing is adjourned to the 7th under those conditions. Is there anything else, gentlemen?
No, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Koss.
Mr. Kress will announce his date of arrival, or what?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. What?
Will Mr. Kress establish a time when he wants to come here, so we'll know that we'll be home? And
yeah, well, whatever time you want to call the exterminator and see when he can meet you there, Mr. Kress, sometime in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And then he'll contact you and let you know when they're planning to come by, assuming that works for you. Okay?
Okay, that's fine.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Koss.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kress.
All right, thank you. Can I take those pictures?
Yeah. Hold on. PCC. Ready, Robin? We have a defendant zooming in. Good morning, Mr. President.
Morning, Your Honor.
Mr. President, I have to tell you, I read a really fascinating opinion from a district court judge in Grand Rapids talking about in-person preliminary examinations and the confrontation right. I mean, this was one of the best written opinions by a district court judge I'd ever seen. It basically said preliminary examinations because of the nature of the burden of proof and the nature of the proceedings, along with U.S. Supreme Court constitutional cases involving the confrontation right being restricted to trial. This judge saw no impediment to conducting or electronic or Zoom exams. It was a really, really thoughtful opinion I got from Judge Baruch. Very, very interesting. Anyway, I thought while I had you on the line independently, I'd let you know that I did a little research and did some work on it. It's pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah.
All right, we are ready. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, on that case, if the attorney and I can meet with you, I mean, I think we both have a plan, so to speak, that we prefer, that we've agreed on. So if you want to bring us in just to talk about it on Zoom or on the phone, that's fine. We'd be agreeable to that.
I'm not going to force either party if they've got something they have agreed to as far as the process here. But just going forward, there's no question that you can compel Zoom exams based on this. You know, we'll see if somebody takes one of these. There are a couple of cases percolating in the system right now, and we'll see what the Court of Appeal says. But at this point, I thought the law was pretty compelling that absent, unless it's a trial, there is no impediment to conducting these proceedings by Zoom. Anyway, we're on the record in the matter of People's State of Michigan versus Dozier, case number 2020-727718. May I have your appearance, please, first for the people?
Gary Bresnan for the people.
And good morning, for the defendant.
Good morning, Your Honor. For the record, Tim Dabalski appearing on behalf of the defendant.
Thank you, Mr. Dabalski. And we have Mr. Tyrone Dozier here. Good morning, Mr. Dozier. Can you hear us okay?
Yes, I can hear y'all.
All right. Great, thank you. If you can't see us, speak up. If you can't hear us, wave your arms or something. Otherwise, I'm going to assume that we're communicating okay.
Yes,
We're here today for a probable cause conference. Has that conference been held, Mr. Bresnan?
I'll need to speak with counsel. I assume he'll need discovery and some more time to review it. There might be some video he'll need to take a look at, and I'm sure we'll want to discuss options on the case that we haven't gotten to yet, and counsel may need more time. So I have no objection if he requests it to a PCC continuance to January, and I can talk to counsel over the phone, or if we have time on this line, I'll be happy to talk to him in a breakout room.
Yeah, that's fine with me, because this is one of those cases, Gary, where he qualifies for your requirements as for a reduction. It's a true third, no accident, no prior criminal record other than the alcohol related offenses. So I'll put that all in the letter for you, and hopefully January we'll be able to resolve this.
Okay.
Mr. Dabalski, do you have all the discovery you need, or has there been any problem getting it from evidence.com or any of that stuff?
So far, I don't have anything, but I don't anticipate there being any problems, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Bresnahan, I'd like you to get Mr. Dabalski some documents. It sounds like he's going to make what in Macomb County they would call a request for deviation. In Wayne County, I think, in light of the circumstances, he may be eligible for part of the prosecutor's program that I've seen you utilize before. I'm happy to adjourn. Do you want to change? Do you want to move this to January 7th for continued PCC?
That's perfect.
Is that how you want to, or do you want to set it for exam date just to keep the clock moving?
Your Honor, I don't believe that we're probably going to go to a preliminary exam. I think we'll be able to know exactly where this case is going to go on or before the 7th of January.
I mean, what I'd like to be able to do on the 7th is get the case resolved or get the case moved to circuit if it's not going to resolve here, or dismissed depending on if there was testimony and exam that might justify that result. What I don't want to do is continue to kick the case. Let's say on the 7th we decide, well, let's go to exam. I guess I could conduct one at some point, but my next court date would be the 28th, and then obviously we're, of course, that's not terribly old. This was an arrest on the 12th, I think, so we're really not that far down the road. It's a good point. I'll continue the PCC to the 7th to allow the parties to exchange discovery and continue to negotiate towards an amicable resolution of the case. Mr. Dozier, do you understand what's happening here today?
I'm getting that we go.
Let me explain to you what's going on. Mr. Dabalski probably wants to get some what's called discovery. That's just the stuff like the police report, maybe in-car videos, car cameras, test results, all the stuff that lawyers look at when they're investigating a case. Then he thinks, depending on where that comes out, that may provide some defenses to you, it may do a number of other things, but he may, once he has that information, be able to communicate with the prosecutor to see if they can work out a plea bargain. Frankly, that might reduce this from a felony to something else that's a little more acceptable to you. That's assuming that the facts warrant it. But I like to give the parties the opportunity to get all the information, to see if there's a way to negotiate something that everybody can live with, rather than just jamming them through the system. Now, you do have a right to have a preliminary examination within 21 days of the date you were arraigned. And if I'm not mistaken, you were arraigned on December 12th. So if we're going to have a preliminary examination sometime after, this month, I'm going to have your agreement to go beyond that 21-day date. Do you have any problem if we continue this on?
I don't have any problems with that, and I think Mr. Dozier doesn't have any problems with extending that preliminary exam date. Is that correct, Mr. Dozier?
I have no problem with it.
All right, so the court does find the waiver of what I call the 21-day rule is valid and on the record. I'll adjourn the probable cause conference for discovery purposes and negotiations to January 7th at 9:30. Everybody will zoom back in. Do we have any questions going forward?
No, none at all.
All right, everyone have a good day. We'll see you back here at 9:30 on January 7th for a continued probable cause conference. And I'm encouraging the attorneys to work together to exchange the discovery and get everything in place. Anything else, gentlemen?
Yeah, if I can just get a minute of the court's time, just so I can get Mr. Dabalski's email address so we can send him a Zoom link so I can let Detective Elkhorn know if he's got video, he'll need to send him over to Mr. Dabalski also.
Okay. Yes, T like Tim, K like Keith, D like Detroit, 7424@gmail.com. Hey, were you
7424?
Yes. Were you happy to see Double D with the Phillies?
Yeah. I think he'll do good. I've always liked him.
Yeah, he goes where there's a lot of money to be spent,
That's true. I agree with that. He works well with it.
Okay. So I will write you. I'll write you a letter setting forth the circumstances I think that are in my favor. Okay, Gary.
Okay, and Detective Elkhorn should have the video for that. I'm not sure if he'll charge you for it, but I'll let him know you need it.
Okay, thank you very much, and have a nice holiday. And Judge, you do the same. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Mr. Moxie, aware of this?
Well, Hennigan is here. Appointed.
Oh, Mr. Hennigan, good morning.
Morning, Judge.
We're here today. Let's see, here's the defendant. We're here today in the matter of People's State of Michigan versus John Kittle Adams. This is case number 2020-724-898. May I have your appearance, please, Mr. Hennigan?
Michael Hennigan on behalf of Mr. Adams.
And Mr. Bresnan, your appearance, please.
Gary Bresnan for the people.
All right, and the record should reflect that Mr. John Carroll Adams is present here in court. This was originally set for a bench trial, but we converted the case to a pretrial conference We thought that Mr. Adams was going to Zoom in here, but he is here today in person, Mr. Hennigan, to our surprise. So since we're having a pretrial conference, Mr. Bresnahan, do you want to give us any insight to any discussion that you've had with Mr. Hennigan, how we're going to handle the case going forward?
Yeah, if we can get a little bit of time, I'd like to talk to Mr. Hennigan about a potential plea. We attempted to do that the last time. So I can continue with that discussion with him. If I can have 15 minutes with him, I'd like to have that opportunity.
All right. Well, that means that I have to continue the case until the 7th unless we want to set some kind of special date on this.
Could I do that now, Your Honor? I can either call him or get the case recalled. Mr. Hennigan may need time with his client in the courtroom to talk with him.
Do you have a breakout, Judge?
Yeah, we can put you in a breakout room. I don't know how, once that's done though, we're gonna have to figure out how to get Mr. Adams communicated with you. If he was on Zoom, we could have put you both in a breakout room after you've talked with Gary, but they brought him here live. We don't know. We sent him Zoom instructions, but whatever.
Well, you know, Judge, I have a lot of experience running to the court.
Me
too.
All right, I'm going to put you two in a breakout room. Mr. Adams, good morning. We're going to have your attorney and the prosecutor meet in a private room where we don't hear anything about it. And after that, we'll figure out a way for Mr. Hennigan to communicate directly with you. It might be that we all vacate this room and you speak with him directly on the TV when no one else is on the TV. Okay?
Right. Yes.
You're okay with that?
Pass, electronic. It is. That's it, Howard.
And that's set for exam that day?
Yes, Your Honor, live.
Right, okay, so if we do that at 9:30, and we're prompt and we start early, we should be able to, I mean, I can't imagine that's more than a 30-minute exam. And if we start this at 11, we start at 11. It's a two-witness case. Bench trial, no jury selection needed. The court, I think we can manage it, Mr. Bresnahan. So if you think we ought to set it for 11.
I was just thinking 10:30. We do the exam first at 9:30, a half hour.
Right, exactly. 9:30 for Howarth and 10:30 for this case. Set for bench trial at 10:30 on January 28th.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor.
Right, thank you. Mr. Bresnahan, unrelated to any of these legal matters,